Well, welcome everyone. I'm so glad that you all are with us. We're recording this, and today is the first quarterly event, our Eden Associates and Friends gathering, and we're so glad you're with us. As we do every time in the new year, we want to just say welcome. And if any of you all have a burning New Year's wish or goal or hope in regard to culture change and person-centered care, if you would just type it in the chat and keep thinking about that as we're going through this and hearing this great update and information from Tim and Jackie. Keep thinking about that. And we want to always start off each one of our gatherings by remembering and reminding ourselves of the mission of the Culture Change Network of Georgia. And we are changing the way that we think and feel about aging and disability by creating the kinds of care and support we want for our loved ones and ourselves. So it's always good to remember that. And as I said, this is the first of the quarterly Eden Associates and Friends. And just if you want to just jot down the dates for the coming events, the coming gatherings, and we'll definitely be sending information out ahead of time. Okay, so let's move on. Our guests are Tim Knight and Jacquie Hurt, and that is my favorite picture of y'all.
Oh.
I love that picture. I think it's so sweet, and I am just honored and thrilled to have you guys. So I'm just going to turn it over to you. I'm going to run the slides for you, Tim.
Okay.
So do you want to stay here a minute and then
You can stay there for a minute.
Okay, and you just holler and tell me what to do.
Okay. So I have to talk about the picture, obviously, because
Of course.
Jackie and I were doing a video for the Pioneer Network National Conference, and we made the decision to make our video at the top of Stone Mountain. And it was probably the windiest day. It's a wonder we survived, but it was also like 99 degrees in the shade. And but we made the video and we submitted it, and it was fun. And we like to do a little different things every once in a while.
Every once in a while, and you didn't fall off the top of Stone Mountain.
We did not.
No, I love it.
But we took the tram up and took the tram down. So it was too hot to hike up the mountain.
Yeah, that's why we didn't hike up. It was too hot. That's
yeah,
it.
that's a good excuse.
That's why.
Good excuse, right? Okay.
Did you have anything else you wanted to say, Jackie?
No, well, I think when we went up to make this video, it was one of those, we really just wanted to highlight some of the beauty and kind of the vastness of what Georgia's really all about. And I think we captured that, because when you look out behind us, there's so many possibilities, you know what I mean? And so I think we really had a fun day. It was hot. But I think that in doing the video from there, it was not like this little small space. It was like, we have all this in Georgia, we're so big and we're going to make such a huge difference. And we make a lot of noise wherever we go.
Y'all do, and Georgia does.
Yeah.
And you all did such an amazing job at Pioneer Network Conference last year. How many folks did you all bring from Park Springs? It was amazing.
I think we had a total of 11 or 12.
12.
That is so great. And you all have been bringing people every year to the conference. And
yes,
really, and that's them, I think. I just want to throw this out and see what y'all think. I think that helps all of us being whoever goes to something like that.
Mhm.
It helps us see the culture change movement nationally and internationally,
Mhm.
and it helps us understand where we fit in and
Right.
how we really see how we are leaders
Well,
in
and
the
I think
culture change movement.
I think
Right?
yeah, the important point in that is that we don't just take leaders. We also take the people that are actually out there in the households doing the work, and building the relationships. And I think that's really important. Actually, we have Nicola Brown, who's on the call today, and she went to one of the Pioneer Network conferences with us. And so it's a way of, when you're trying to be a pioneer, it's nice to highlight why you're different and outline to people and demonstrate to people why we're different and why we need to change the care that we're providing. And it's such a great opportunity to take people that would not otherwise get to go to a national conference along. And we give kudos to Andy Isaacson for allowing that to happen.
Absolutely. Nicola, is there anything you want to say about your experience going to the conference? Unmute. We'd love to hear what you have to say about that.
It was a life-changing experience for me, and I have grown into becoming more aware of caring for older adults. And I am at Georgia State University now, but I had started out, doing nursing, but then I realized that that's not where my heart lies. So I'm currently doing my bachelor's program in gerontology.
Awesome. Good for you. And I see some of the
That was
Georgia.
one of the things that my trip to the Pioneers Network in Kentucky brought forth, because I really didn't know much about gerontology. I didn't know anything about gerontology. I was walking by one of the booths from Georgia State, and I saw them having their display, and I started asking questions, and I recognized that this is something that I am very interested in. Why not make it a career? And of course, dementia is my baby.
Well, good for
Dementia
you.
care. And as a matter of fact, we're having an aging conference here on campus on February 10th, and I'll be a participant there also.
Nice.
That is
Well,
so wonderful. Well, I'm sure we'll be posting it and sharing it on our Facebook page. So
Yeah.
congratulations. I'm so excited that you are at Georgia State and in that wonderful gerontology school institute that we have. Thank you
Oh,
for
and Kim, that was the first time I got a leg hug. Thank you.
okay.
So this leads right into what we're going to be talking to today, because it's all about investing in your employees that provide care. And it was a perfect lead in. Thank you, Nicola. I'm like beaming with pride because I feel like a proud dad, because we gave you the opportunity to come and work for us, and look where you're going. You're amazing.
It's
Thank you.
fabulous. So great. Well, Tim, are you ready? There you go.
I'm ready if you want to go
Okay.
on. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about a new way of thinking about where you invest your training resources in your organization. So we all invest a lot in our leadership team. We were just talking about this at the Leading Age board meeting this morning. We invest in those people that we feel are already committed to the organization. We commit a lot of time and resources into training them, but we don't always commit a lot of resources to the people that are actually doing the work. So we really need to think about shifting those resources. And we tend to invest in those people who have proven their worth to the organization, like I said, but you know, how do we take that next step and really invest in our frontline staff and our employees that work in the households and in our community? This all started for me with a conversation with our maintenance director, and we were trying to get him on board with investing time and resources into training his staff like we train everybody else. And his response was, I don't want to invest in somebody that's not going to be here in 90 days. And I said, but if we invest in them, maybe they will be here in 90 days. If they really truly connect with our model of care and they see the importance of the work that they're doing, maybe they'll stick around. And I won that argument. We are now training, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. If you want to advance that slide, Kim.
Okay. There you go.
So when we started talking about this, you know, it is very important that we have leaders on board. We have to have our leadership team on board because someone has to hold everybody accountable for adhering to our model of care. But what about your HR team? How committed are they to your vision and your values for the organization? Do they really even understand your model of care? So step one for us, I have now provided spirit training for all of our HR team because they need to understand what they're selling.
Okay, I'm going to interrupt you just for a second. So spirit training, y'all,
Yep.
if you will, define what that is.
We're going to talk about it.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
coming. It's coming
All right.
up. It's coming up. So when you work in a community that really has a different model of care, you really have to build your training around it differently. And so we provide, for many years, we've been providing spirit training, and we've talked about it at conferences and such. And spirit training is really about investing in employees. And for us, it's very conversational. It's a conversational training where we actually allow people to sit and reflect on how their own personal values and beliefs affect the care that they provide in our households. And I can tell you there's not a whole lot of organizations that allow that time for someone to actually sit, talk about it, reflect on how am I showing up every day at work. And it makes a huge difference when you allow that time and you direct those resources to support that in your model of care. So having HR on board with that is so critically important because they are your marketers for new employees. If you have people joining your team, they're out recruiting. And if they're recruiting for something they don't even know what they're looking for, it doesn't work. So we really wanted to make sure that our HR team really understood the model of care. So now they've all been through spirit training, so they can speak to the model of care. They also, I put together a list of talking points for our recruiter because our positions are very different. In a household model of care, positions are different. And you know, a CNA, we hire care partners, and if you just hire a CNA who's used to doing CNA duties and they don't understand what they're getting into, there's a lot of friction when they actually get into the workplace and start doing the work because they're not really focused on what they should be focused on. So if you want to advance the slide, Kim.
Okay.
So what we've done at Park Springs and at the terraces at PHP is we've built spirit training into our new employee orientation. So all of our employees go through a 3-day orientation. We just started this a few months ago, and it's working really, really well. So day one is your typical new employee orientation day. They meet with HR, they go over benefits, they go over payroll, they do the employee handbook, they do all those administrative things that you have to do to onboard a new employee. Day two, they report for day one of spirit training. And like I said, it's a conversational training session about our model of care. It allows people to really reflect on how they show up at work, what values, beliefs are affecting their ability to perform. It also sets expectations for them right up front. So when we talk about, setting expectations from day one, that's really important because we want people understanding what they're supposed to do when they show up in the household on their first day of work. And it also, it provides a lot of tools for success. And we talk about values. We talk about, behaviors that are appropriate for the workplace. Jackie, why don't you talk a little bit about spirit training and what it all involves?
So spirit training really is, like Tim said, it's not about infection control. It's not about the med pass. It's not about all of the, documentation. It is about who you are as a person and being valued for that person, what you bring to the table, and being able to see the values that other people bring to the table too, so that you can support one another in the workplace. It's about building relationships right from day one that are built on a foundation of trust, understanding, proximity, recognizing each other's differences, and not feeling like you're just kind of thrown to the wolves once you get to the workplace, because we want people to know that we've got them. So the first day we really talk about the history of long-term care in the United States and how long-term care has kind of developed through the years, and how the traditional model of care is still a model of care from over 100 years ago, and how that doesn't work today. And how with the changing demographics in long-term care, we really have to start looking forward to what the baby boomers really expect from service, what Gen X, is going to be expecting from service. What does it look like? And we really dig into that a lot about how would you want to be taken care of? We talk a lot about things, we talk about like sexuality and intimacy. How do you honor somebody's need for intimacy? And what about your own beliefs would keep you from doing that? And how can we help you get through that so that you can understand that people still have a need for connection? And so that was really important for the HR team to understand that those are the things we're going to be talking about. We're not going to be talking about you have to wash your hands for 20 seconds and sing your ABCs. We're talking about some deep stuff with people. We do a whole session about being well known, where we ask people to share parts of their life story that maybe they've never shared with anybody before. Number one, maybe because they've never been asked to share their life story. And number two, because they've been too ashamed to share their life story. And so when you're in a group of people and people are sharing stories, and all of a sudden you feel like you're not alone and it's safe to share that part of your life with somebody, all of a sudden there's this deep sense of connection that is built immediately. And we started off with Tim and I, or Trayvon, who's the other trainer. We share our stories first. Like we are just as invested in this as the employees. And we share some hard stuff about ourselves so that employees know that just because Tim and I are like at the front of the room doesn't mean that we're any different from you sitting in a chair. What it says on our badges doesn't really make us who we are. And we really work hard to like flatten that hierarchy so that when Tim comes into a household, it's not, oh my goodness, Tim's in the household. It's, oh, Tim's here and he's a part of our team, and seeing each other in that light. And
this is so great. What you guys are talking about really is creating open, trusting, transparent space for relationships. Right.
And if you want to advance to the next slide, this is one of the new things that we've added into our spirit training, the new employee orientation spirit training. And my thought behind this was we need to create some kind of connection from day one. We need to have a way to connect that new employee, make them feel like they're known among the team, and make sure that they are feeling supported throughout that they're new, through their newness. So HR on day one gives them a packet of homework to do the night before, and they start working on putting together their life story. And so when you talk about creating an inclusive workplace, it's about being known and being well connected. And so this is step one in how we do that. So at first, we were going to just have them pass that homework in on day one. And then as we thought about our process, spirit training is all about creating psychological safety for those people to, like Jackie said, share their stories in a safe space. So we are now having them keep those until the very end of the second day of spirit training. And so with the hope that they might come in with a basic story, but then they might feel safe enough to add some things into that story as spirit training goes on. And they, having the opportunity to sit and reflect, they can actually think, oh yeah, I should have put that in there. So they'll write it in. And so by the end of the second day, Jackie or Trayvon, the primary trainers, they collect those stories, and those stories get handed off to the leader in the household. And so on day one, if you've been new and you've been working in healthcare, that first day can be a very scary experience, and it can be very lonely. So how do we take that experience and make it better? That was my hope with this life story thing. So the primary trainer hands that off to the household leadership person, and that person shares the life story on their first day in the household. So, they've had a chance to look at it over the weekend, the team in the household. And so when that new employee walks in the door, they already feel like they're known because they're reading their story. They're talking about, Kim is coming to join us on Monday, and we know all this stuff about her. So when Kim walks in, instead of someone looking at her and going, who the hell is that in our household? They're saying, oh, that's Kim. We have her story. We know a little bit about you. I was reading your story, Kim, and I noticed that, we both really enjoy dogs. And, the conversation and the connection starts then, day one, when your feet hit the floor in the household. So you're feeling supported, you're feeling like you belong, you feel like you're connected. And, there's so many benefits to that, because you don't have the employee that's out looking for a job in 2 weeks after they've been with you. And, that constant churn of trying to recruit and hire new people. And, if we invest upfront, it's a whole, it's expensive. It's expensive to train people up front. And it's expensive to take 3 days in that first period of time when they want them on the floor. They want them in the household immediately because they're working.
We need the bodies. We
Exactly.
need the bodies.
But,
right?
but the other thing that I've learned in doing it this way is that when we are finished on day 2 of spirit training, I can look around the room and I know who's going to be there in 90 days. And I know who probably shouldn't have been hired in the first place.
Right.
And, it becomes very, very obvious. By training your HR staff and your recruiter, you're hoping, with the intent there is that you're getting higher caliber candidates because they're interviewing and hiring on a different scale. So
that's a whole different way to think about hiring, right?
It is.
And another thing I want to just say is all of this that you're talking about is modeling what we are asking staff to do with the residents, or as you guys say, your members.
Mm-hmm.
We're wanting them to learn about each person, learn their life history, develop relationships. Well, if we're not modeling that with them, it's hard for them to even know and understand how to do it if we're not doing that within our organizations.
Exactly.
And it's about creating a welcoming, warm culture. I mean, this is about your culture, right?
It is. Absolutely. And, we also, it increases the or it supports and encourages the voice of the employee. Because if they're feeling like there are less barriers between executive level, manager level, if they're feeling like just one of the team, they're going to come forward with new ideas. They're going to share new ideas. They're going to feel like they have a voice at the table, which is what we all want when we're talking about an inclusive work environment. You know, we want to break down those barriers. We want to break down those hierarchies so that people feel I'm just part of the household. That's it. I'm just part of the household. You know, it's like, and then, you know, work becomes less tedious because you're not like laying awake at night thinking, oh God, I really don't want to go to work tomorrow because I don't like those people. You have a relationship with those people. You have a relationship with the people you take care of, because like Jackie said, we do a lot of work around building life stories, and not just with the staff like this, but we also build life stories of the members. So, you know, it's a tool in people's toolbox. If you know something about Mrs. Jones, who you're providing care for, and you connect and you make a relationship, you're going to provide a higher level of care. That's just the facts. Because if you care about somebody, you're going to want to take care of them better. You're also going to want to make sure that the care partners coming on this evening have all the information that they need to continue to provide good care for Mrs. Jones, because you care about her and you want her to be okay overnight, and you want her to be okay when you come back in the morning. So it sounds very simple, but it's not.
Well, you know, it gets to the basics of do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And putting yourselves into the shoes of the other people, as well as putting the person before the task.
Exactly.
And everything that you guys are doing with your onboarding is modeling that right up front. And I see a raised hand, Miss Brown.
Yes,
There you go.
from a caregiver standpoint, and having gone through the spirit training, I can attest that inclusivity is very important in determining the kind of care you will give to a member. Because if you feel like you're not a part of something, then you won't want to put that effort in. And kudos to the team, because I learned a lot from it, and it has now become not only a part of my work life, but you find that it becomes a part of your personal life. It changes you into a more empathetic person, and you start living compassion rather than just thinking it.
That's wonderful. I mean, that could be embroidered onto some kind of pillow or something. Thank you for sharing
But,
that.
you know, that's an interesting thing that she brought up, because we hear that from people. We hear that because people will say to us,
For me.
I've never had the opportunity to really even think about that. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you for listening to my story. And people take these skills and they don't just use them at work. They use them in life. And, you know, I've always been a proponent of teaching people life skills, because you don't know what people are coming to you with. And some people just don't have a big toolbox of life skills. And the more you can do that, you know, even down to the conversation about, hey, you know what, it's really important that you come to work every day because the members here that you provide care for are depending on you. I mean, simple stuff. And some people don't get that, and they've never, it's not part of their value system. And that's something that we talk about in spirit training. It's like, why do you come to work? You know, what? Simple question. Why do you come to work? And, you know, it's a very different approach to providing that support and building the culture in the organization.
I just love it. I love this. Charlotte, I see you have a raised hand.
Oh, I just wanted to contribute. I've been with Tim and Jackie since they started. And I have had the absolute pleasure and benefit of being around them. So when I interview as a leader, when I'm interviewing, I start my questions off with getting to know who they are and asking those questions that, that apply to, whether or not they will fit into our model of care. So before they even make it to HR, I think it's the responsibility of the leader to ask those pertinent questions, those hard questions, to find out whether or not that person is going to be a good fit in your household. So that, like Tim said, whether or not they should have even been hired, that shouldn't even be a case. That, that can be eliminated when the leaders are asking those questions that find out where their heart is and why, like you said, why they're there, why you come to work, why do you do what you do? Because your qualifications as a CNA gets you through the door. It gets you that interview, but who you truly are is very important questions to ask during that interview process.
I love this. And with everything thank you, Charlotte, with everything that's going on now, and everything we're hearing is staffing. It just really feels like if people could really focus on this type of thing and building the right culture and hiring the right people in the right way, it could make such a huge difference with the turnover and burnout and all of the staffing issues that we're hearing about. I mean, Tim and Jackie, have you, in past lives, and then seeing that and compared to what you're doing now, plus seeing what's happening out in the country now. I mean, can you guys speak to that a little bit for us?
Jackie, go ahead.
I think one of the things that's really powerful is when I'm trying to put it into words and I'm like, my brain's just like click, 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 click. So Tim, if you have something more important to say, like my brain's
Well,
just,
I
put
think
it together.
I think, I was a director of nursing in my past life, and there's so much emphasis on filling positions and getting people through the door because, your license is hanging on the wall. You have responsibilities to make sure that the people that have been placed in your care get the highest quality of care possible. But when you build a budget around, a staffing ratio of 1 to 20 for a CNA, that those members are not getting good care. There's no way possible that one person providing care to 20 people can even do that. The basics might get done, but they're not going to have time to sit and hold someone's hand and work with them through an issue or.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, who was that? You, Joan? I don't know who that was, but we could hear you. We'll come back to you in just a second. Let Tim finish this thought, and then whoever was calling out, we'll hear from you.
Oh, Tim, and then I'll piggyback off you too.
Okay. So
great.
just, really being aware of kind of how you're setting yourself up for success, because if you're not even considering investing training in your frontline people that are coming through the door and giving them a sense of connection or giving them even an idea of what their responsibilities are, expectations, setting expectations with them, it's really difficult to expect that they are going to produce successful outcomes for the members that we're tasked to provide service for. So, it really is kind of like, stop the bus. I want to get off for a minute so I can regroup, and then I'll get back on the bus once I have my priorities in line. But being a director of nursing, I know the push to get people through the door, to hire, to get a warm body that can come in at midnight to cover the night shift. I get it. I understand that, but it's so much more important for me. What I've learned throughout my experience is investing in those people and taking the time to really get the right people, even though you might be working short for a couple days, but you know a good person's coming, you want to wait. And we had this conversation, even thinking about adding 2 more days to the orientation process. Managers want their people as soon as possible. They want them in their positions tomorrow. If they hire them today, they want them tomorrow. And I get that. I get it. But let's give them the tools to be successful first.
Oh my
Right.
God, this is so
Yeah,
important.
And what I talked about the, when we talk about past lives, lots of people come from past lives, like they've worked in other organizations that are traditional model of care. And for us to just take them to expect, Kim, you're a CNA, you've worked for one of the big corporations, right? Where you did the 1 to 20 and it was all about tasks, right? We're going to bring you in, and the expectation that you're just going to go into the household and understand that we don't work that way, that's unrealistic, and we're not setting you up for success. So by providing those 2 days of training of, look, we're going to dismantle your belief system for a little bit, and we're going to tell you, why we do things differently, why we're special, and why the way you've been working before will not work here. There's plenty of organizations that still continue to work that way. We're not
Oh,
in,
yeah.
And we have a lot of very challenging conversations. I mean, I love to challenge someone. I recently, with one of our leaders, I had a conversation about, this couple who live across the continuum. One lives in long-term care, one lives in assisted living. And, they had an outbreak of COVID in the short-term rehab, and that's where the husband lived. And all of a sudden the wife wasn't allowed to visit anymore. And I'm like, no. No, we pride ourselves on supporting relationships across our continuum. Therefore, we need to figure out how to make this work. And, just because he's living in long-term care does not mean that. And she's like, well, we're working off regulations. We have regulations. And I said, I challenge you to find any surveyor that's going to come in this building and say, we're not going to encourage a relationship between a husband and a wife. We're going to cite you on that. And that was the end of the conversation. And we figured out other strategies on how to make that work. But, somebody has to be an advocate and a voice around this as well. And unfortunately, it's usually me and Jackie. But
Well, and that's part of it. You guys are the change agents and the champions, and everything that y'all do is modeling this. And a lot of people get sick of the culture change, and they think it's all woo-woo. Well, what we're talking about right now is culture change.
absolutely.
It's not woo-woo. It's creating an environment and a culture in your organization where people can be successful. That's really so much of what it is. I mean, right? Wouldn't you? How else would you say that?
that's perfect.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, fortunately, we're all going to get older if we're lucky enough. And, we're all going to depend on some level of support from the healthcare system. Don't we all want it to be good? I mean,
Yeah.
I want that experience to be good. I don't want to come in and be, lined up in the hallway drooling and waiting for lunch. That's not my idea of a good time. And, so anything we can do now to even, break the cycle of ageism and how we look at nursing home care is huge. And, it will make a difference. And it does make a difference.
And what you're talking about, what you guys are talking about, isn't just nursing home.
No.
This approach to welcoming staff and hiring staff, no matter where and in what level of care and support, this is just best practice.
Mhm.
And
Just good peopling. I mean, it really
it's good peopling.
And
I
it's
love
also-
that.
And it's good business. I mean, when you look at how much it costs to recruit and hire and train And then when somebody doesn't feel connected or valued or worthy, and all of a sudden they leave and you have to do it over and over and over again, the bottom line is going to be affected. And when the bottom line's affected, care is affected.
Yeah,
Mhm.
And when
absolutely.
people are saying, you know, it's so expensive to do this training, like Tim was talking about, well, okay, let's talk about the investment up front and what's going to be the return on our investment.
Exactly. And
It's more expensive not to do this.
Right.
And
Right.
what happens when you hire, like when I look around the room on the last day of spirit training, and I know that CNA is not going to fit our model of care, what's the risk of putting her into a position and having her have a bad interaction with a member or their family, and the effect that that has on our good reputation in the community, which is, you know, all of our referrals, or the majority of our referrals, come by word of mouth. And, you know, if our reputation is bad, then the referrals don't come. So it really is best practice in supporting your business and all the outcomes of your business, which include member satisfaction, family satisfaction, ROI, you know, all of those things make a successful business. And this is step one. And when you're trying to create, or when your goal is to create an inclusive environment for everyone working in the household, then the first rule of inclusivity is knowing people and their stories.
Know each person. That's so important.
Absolutely.
Dana, did you have something to say? I saw your.
Yes, ma'am.
Hey
How
there.
you doing?
Good.
I'm sorry I was late jumping on. I was on another call, but I appreciate the opportunity just to thank you for putting these out here. They're so valuable. And I just wanted to share some small things that we're doing that here at Wesley Woods of Athens. And we have independent living, and then we have 36 apartments that are personal care. And so that's a 24/7 operation, dining services, maintenance, all of that. And one of the things that we rolled out this past October is a campaign called Permission to Pause. And it's PAUSE, the acronym for People Appreciate Unique, Simple Engagement. And basically, it's everybody on the team, from housekeeping to dining to CNAs to all the managers and everybody that comes in here and serves our community, to take the time to pause and get to know the residents, get to know their family. They have permission to do that. You know, we didn't realize that some people didn't realize that they could do that. You know, that might be seen as, well, I'm not doing my job, I'm on the clock, or, you know, and it might be seen as just sitting around, but we encourage this pause.
I
And
love it so much. And you know what? People might steal it now that you put it out there.
we
Dana.
want you to. Yeah, we want to share it.
In the chat, type it in the chat because it's awesome.
Yeah. So
I love it.
I will. I'll send it to you. That's blurry, but
I
yeah, I'll
love
send it to you.
that.
And I love
so-
the fact that you keyed in on the fact that people don't always feel that they have permission, and permission is so important. And, you know, giving people permission to ask questions. And that's another thing about our spirit training, is that it allows people, it gives us the opportunity to say, yes, Dana, you have permission
right.
to ask those
And
questions.
they feel good, you know, and we
And-
love to see it when
Yeah,
it's happening. And you can
that's
see it,
awesome.
and
I
you
love
can
that.
already, just from October to January, you can already see the seeds that have been planted and the friendships that are being developed, even with other, you know, across departments with other staff members. And that's huge too. And we're all about, you know, trying to cross train with that too. But one of the other things that we do is we do quarterly connections with our entire staff. And we try to bring in someone from the outside to come in and talk. One time we had the owner operator over here at Chick-fil-A nearby, and he came in and talked about, you know, their hiring and their onboarding practices and things like that, and just shared some very positive, upbeat information and videos and things like that. He brought one of the guys from over at the store. It was just really, it was exciting. And we keep this permission to pause campaign in front of everybody during these connections meetings. You know, we cover HR, we cover the things that we need to do, but then we try to get to the fun things. And during COVID, you know, when things were getting really, really heavy, we decided, you know, we needed to break up the monotony somehow. And one of the first things that we did is we ordered case after case, a couple of cases of silly string. And we went out in the back parking lot and the staff had a silly string fight. And it was across department, you know, it was a little bit of friendly competition between departments, but it was a blast. You know, so
Oh,
it's
I love it.
kind of stuff
Awesome.
like that. Kind of stuff.
That's so great. And Dana, this is building community
Mhm.
and culture. That, and again, and that's not woo-woo. I
No.
mean,
Mm.
people leave jobs because they don't like their manager or their leader. They don't have relationships with people.
Yeah.
But when we're connected and we care about each other, it changes the game. And I've heard it over and over and over again for years. It
It
makes
does.
all the difference.
And,
It
and
does.
I
It
think a
does.
key difference with people who, you like you calling it the woo, but I think that organizations that like ours, and I know there's others that who really take the time to develop those relationships, all of a sudden the manager isn't this person who sits in an office who doesn't understand what we do. The manager is somebody that we can connect with, we can count on, that when we have a problem, we know we can go to them because it's a trusting relationship. You know, Susan had made a comment in the chat. Let me go back up. It said, so workers don't feel invisible, who only get attention when they do something wrong. And how many times, you know, in your past lives and other careers, have you been like, oh God, here comes, you know, Mr. So-and-so, somebody's in trouble, right? And that we want to make sure that that's not the feeling that people have when they see us come through the households. It's because, oh wait, Jackie and Tim are here, or Charlotte's coming through the household, or Orville, or, you know, somebody's and they're here and we're gonna make them proud, right? And then when we have those conversations about opportunities for improvement, where we, you know, because we're never always going to be perfect. So, but when we have those conversations, they're received differently than just, you only talk to me when I've screwed up. We have a
Right.
relationship. I know about your kids. I know about, you know, the vacation you've gone on, you know about me. So when we have those conversations, it's like, listen, these are the things that we know you're really good at, but we need to get better at this as a team. How can I support you? And then that's the follow through. As a leader, you have to follow through on that. And our spirit training for the leadership, which looks they get the basics of what we give the employees, but we really talk about, and Tim can talk about this a little bit more if he wants to, but we really talk about how important it is for teams, our associates, our frontline associates, and I know, Kim, you hate that term, but our associates that are really like delivering the care with the people, they need to know that the people sitting in Mahogany Row got their backs.
Yeah, absolutely.
And again, that goes back to
trust.
permission.
And
Mhm.
permission. Yeah. And when people also, this is what I'm hearing you guys talk about as well, is you're really building on people's strengths. And that's part of team, you know.
Well, we're taking the time to learn what those strengths are,
Exactly.
because most people don't.
And we don't even know what our own strengths are.
Right.
Exactly.
Unless we are in an organization that helps us develop that stuff.
Mhm.
And from a leadership management, and those are two different words. You know, not everybody in management is a leader.
Mm-mm.
Way too often people are put into management roles without getting the education and the training and the support that they need. So it's like in this world of healthcare, so often we're setting people up for failure because we're not hiring and training and educating correctly. And in the leadership role and supervisory roles. Also helping those folks develop coaching skills. And I know you all will do a lot of that, right?
Mhm.
With coaching, the coaching approach.
We do.
We do. There's a lot of, I mean, we have some really great leaders in place here. And I'm not just saying that because Charlotte's on the call and Orville's on the call, but they're great leaders. And they know their teams. They are available to their teams, and their teams know that they can trust them. And that's the biggest thing. And it's because they don't walk around like, I'm the manager, you do that, right? If you know, I can't tell you how many times Charlotte has said, well, I'm in the household, I've been in there all day because, you know, they've needed me. And, you know, people, our teams need to see that managers are more than just paper pushers.
Mhm.
Right.
You know,
You gotta walk the talk, right? Um,
so Tim, one of the things I just want to touch on real quick is when we talked about, you know, sharing life stories, and sometimes that can be really difficult. One of the things that I make sure to do is to provide our associates with our EAP information, because we don't want people opening up wounds or feeling like, okay, I've told my story and now, or somebody else has told a story that they've connected to and something's come up for them and we've triggered something.
and
And
what do those initials mean, Jackie, for folks who
oh,
aren't?
the employee assistance program. And employee assistance programs, most organizations have them, but they don't utilize them enough. And there's connections for, you know, family support, legal support, therapy support. There's, you know, whatever's included in your package. But I really try to make sure that our associates have all of that information, because I'm not a therapist. Tim's not a therapist, right? There are some things that we need to say, listen, you know, we're here, we're going to hear you. And these are the resources that we have available to you, because there's nothing worse than asking somebody to share something difficult and then saying, well, thank you for sharing. And they're kind of left holding the bag of, you know, feelings and nowhere to go with it.
Right.
But we have those things in place through our training and through our resources with HR. That's why there needs to be a really good relationship.
I just love this so much. I want to reach out and ask Joan Carlson, are you on the call? I see somebody on an iPhone, and I don't know if that's you or if you had to hop off.
I don't see her.
I don't see her
Hi,
either.
this is Jenny, and I'm on an iPhone. I've been on.
Okay, there you go. I wasn't sure who the secret iPhone person was.
Jenny's lurking.
Lord, she's
I didn't
lurking
mean to
in the
lurk. I
background.
didn't know it didn't have my name up there, but I've enjoyed it. Thanks, y'all.
I will just speak on behalf of Joan if she were here. Joan has been in the healthcare field for decades, longer than many of us, most of us on this call. And I just wish we could hear her talk about the importance of onboarding.
Mhm.
She has decades of stories about the importance of this. And so, and sometimes she does a lot of consulting with organizations kind of as a fill-in, you know, when people are down and, you know, they've lost higher ups. She goes in and kind of is the fill-in for a while. And so often she has to talk organizations into doing onboarding. So I just want everybody to know, not everybody does this, but this is best practice. And Jackie and Tim, in your years of being out there talking and presenting on this, I mean, or any of you on the call, what percentage of organizations do you think are doing this kind of onboarding and welcoming?
Well, when we talk about it, we get an awful lot of interest. So,
Okay.
and in most cases, I think it's a new concept for people. So in my own experience, I would say the percentage is probably pretty low. But you know, the more, and that's kind of why we do this, is because we want to, you know, encourage people to think differently about how they do the work they do. And that includes HR.
Right. And you all are, I want to just ask this. Tim, you came from Maine.
Mhm.
Tell us how long ago you learned about the culture change movement and how long you've been involved in it. Because I just think that's really cool for people to hear.
So I had never heard of culture change before ever. But in 2004, I started working with Kathy Brady and
Barbara,
Barbara Frank. And they came to Maine, to my community, and did some work sitting down, talking to the staff. What do you need from us to be successful? Those sort of conversations. And it was around that time that's where I kind of learned the culture change terminology. We actually at that time made a training video for surveyors around the country, which I have a copy, and it's hilarious because I'm like 10. But that's kind of when I started learning about it. And throughout my career in Maine, I worked with a lot of organizations to kind of retrofit culture change into like old buildings, because, you know, the hospital closed down, they built a new one. Now we're going to make a nursing home here, which, you know, the environment isn't really conducive to living because you don't want to live in a hospital with, you know, concrete walls and whatever. And so a lot of my experience is around retrofitting culture into old buildings. And so 6 years ago, when I heard about Park Springs and Pebblebrook being built, I knew that Andy Isaacson had a dream. And actually, it was Kim McRae that sent me, because we were on the Pioneer Network call, and Kim sent me the job posting for the, I think it was called the Associate Executive Director of Health Services at Park Springs. And
I didn't remember that I did that.
you
I
did.
mean, okay.
We were texting offline the whole time we were on the
Yeah.
meeting. And she sent me the job posting, and I forwarded it on to my husband, and I said, what do you think about living in Georgia? And he said, sure. And I held on to it for a few days before I actually sent a resume. And I sent the resume, and that afternoon, Andy Isaacson called me, and we had an hour-long conversation, and he flew me down to Georgia so I could see his project and what he was working on. And I made the decision after seeing Park Springs that this is where I needed to be. So
I love it. I love it so much. And Jackie, when did your background is you worked in food services. I don't
Right.
know if I'm using the right phrase. Tell us a little bit about that.
So I've been been a certified dietary manager for eons, you know, and in my past lives, it was more hospital. So I was food service director in hospital, but then I became, when it comes to culture change, even in hospital care, I was part of a team that worked for one of the big contract management companies that put room service into hospitals. Talk about culture change, right? And hospital care. Now it's almost unusual to be in a hospital where you don't get to order what you want to eat when you want to eat it, right? But this was back when that was all brand new. And then a lot of my hospitals had nursing homes attached to the program. So that's how I started kind of learning about long-term care. But I was also caring for my mother who had dementia at home. So when I started, I became an area manager, food service director in South Florida, and decided I was really tired of the way most organizations treat the elders that live. I'm sorry, we have a fire thing going off. I'm not sure if I have to run or not. We'll see. But I left it for a long time. I was gone for a couple of years. And then the opportunity came, kind of like Tim, the opportunity here at Park Springs opened up. I emailed my resume, got the call the same day. So I was here when Tim and I came here, it was still bricks and mortar for the new health center. We had to wear hard hats and figure out where we were by, blueprints almost, and to
So
be-
it wasn't even built yet. It was at the
No.
very
It was not.
beginning.
no, it
Yeah.
wasn't. And so I had a great team of food service employees, food and nutrition employees, and, building the homemaker program, those personal chefs in the kitchens, making sure that they understood what the culture of the food service was going to be, that people get to eat what they want, when they want it, where they want it. I mean, we've had some strange requests of places that people want to eat food.
I bet.
And,
And just to back up, Jackie, can you just tell, like, y'all have households,
Mhm.
each household, y'all tell how the household is set up and about the kitchen and
Okay.
how that is, how y'all do that.
Well, each household is kitchen centric. Each household has its own kitchen, its own living space. It has, everybody has a bedroom in the household, just like you would at home. And each household has a personal chef. So they're there for 12 hours a day. And so if you wake up at 9 o'clock and want a fresh hot breakfast, guess what you're going to get? A fresh hot breakfast at 9 o'clock. Nobody's getting woken up to get to breakfast at, 7:30, 8 o'clock because that's somebody else's schedule. Do you have anything to add into that, Tim?
No, I think, and the homemaker is really the key, the as Deke would say, the magic sauce
Yeah.
of our
Secret sauce.
household.
Secret
Yeah.
sauce.
The secret
Secret sauce, yeah. But the homemaker role really helps take the schedule out of the day, and that really sets the cadence for the household. It allows people to just live. And we're also very fortunate to have a budget that sustains a 1-to-5, 1-to-6 staffing ratio, 24 hours a day, that also is very magical in the household, because you're not, you don't have managers looking at their watch saying, okay, you've spent enough time with that member, move on. You've got things to do. Again, we give permission in the households to just be with people. And when a CNA identifies that someone is having a struggle, we don't call behaviors, we call them unmet emotional needs. Therefore, it's up to our care partners to really figure out what's going on with that person. And if Jackie really needs a lot of support right now, it's okay if I sit and hold her hand and get her through that emotional upset or whatever is going on with her. But it's very much a part of the culture that, the members get what they need when they need it. And, it's not just food, but it's also that emotional support. If they need physical support, that's just kind of how we do things. And that just makes such a huge difference when you allow people and give them permission. My watch is talking to me. When you actually give them permission and allow them to just be with people.
I love that.
And with each other, because our employees support each other through a lot too. Because if I know that Jackie's having a really hard day, I'm going to support her through that and say, you know what, Jackie, you might need an extra break today. It's okay. I get it. And then tomorrow, when I'm having a really bad day, Jackie's going to support me. And,
and that relationship helps set up the model of tagging out, and it's okay. And
right. Well, and it creates that psychological safety and an environment of safety where if I make a mistake, I know that I'm not going to be belittled about it by my manager. It's going to be seen as a learning opportunity. I'm going to feel more comfortable in reporting that because I'm not going to be disciplined for it, or it's not going to be seen as a negative event. It's going to be seen as an opportunity to improve and to learn something new. And, those sort of things make a huge difference in the work environment.
Absolutely. Something else I want to bring up and talk to you guys about. I mean, you all have worked together. Y'all joined at the hip Tim and Jackie joined at the hip. Y'all have worked together over the years to really develop and build your, proprietary, your system and your training and your education. But I want to just say I've had many conversations with both of you about this. You guys also have taken part in the Certified Eden Associate training and the Dementia Beyond Drugs education, and a lot of the other types of educational opportunities that we at Culture Change Network of Georgia and through our connections nationally, you guys have really tried to expose yourselves to all of those. And a lot of people, I think, feel like they have to pick just one, and I'm doing this or I'm doing this. Can y'all talk about that a little bit to help people who are struggling, like they have to pick one thing?
Well, I think, the more information and the more resources and tools you have in your toolbox, the better you are. I mean, it's all the same thing. We want to provide good care to members or residents or people, whatever we're talking about. But, anything that can support that. And that's why these conversations are so important, because little pieces of what other people are doing, you want to incorporate that if it's best practice, and it can only improve things.
Right.
Even if it's a duplicate, what difference does it make? I mean, it doesn't matter if you call somebody a member or an elder or a senior, they're all, they're all the same people needing the same quality care.
Yeah. Jackie, you and I've talked about this a lot. What do you think about this topic?
So, kind of like Tim, I totally agree that the more information you have, the stronger you can be as a team and the better care you're going to be able to provide. But, I'm usually the catalyst here for farming this information out, pulling teams together. I get with Tim and he's like, just make it happen. And I'm like, okay. And, I've gotten a lot of our associates through the Eden training. And, I explained to them, we are not an Eden community, but all this information is going to show you that the training that we've given you, there are other organizations that believe in this too. And this is just going to give you a stronger hold on the information that we gave you. And if there's something you've forgotten, you're going to remember it again. You're going to build on it. It's just a new, fresh way of looking at it. I think it's really important. Kind of like the certified dementia practitioner, Charlotte just got hers yesterday.
Yay, congratulations.
So, yeah, she just got hers yesterday. So any of those education opportunities where I can even get down to our staff, not just the leaders, but the staff, I think it's really important, because so many organizations say, oh, well, if you want to go learn that, you have to do it on your own time. Right. I want it to be something that is complementary to what we do here and is seen as important for our leaders to say, you know what, if we're providing that education for our folks here, they're going to stay with us because we're providing them opportunities to learn and grow on the job.
I love that. And something else too. Yeah. Helping people grow and learn and being a learning organization. And another thing is, each time, you can't just listen to this stuff once and you get it. I mean, it's never ending. It's a journey. Culture change is a journey, not a destination. And I've heard so many people over the years say, oh, I took that, got it. Well, no, I mean, it's bigger than that. And each time that you hear something, if you hear it in different words, you might hear it a different, said a different way with different phrases. As many times as Walter Coffey and I have taught Eden, the Certified Eden Associate training, every time we teach it, something pops out to us and we go, this really hit me this time.
Mm-hmm.
You're at a different place where you receive things differently.
Well,
So-
and kind of like you and Walter, you do the training over and over and over and over again, and we do the same thing. And
Yeah,
our training sessions, there are no two alike. And
never wrong.
there's always, I always try to take something away from the conversations that I have with the people in the room. And I have learned so many things and so many different ways of looking at things. The example that comes to mind, Jackie, is the poorhouse photo. We have a photo of one of the old poorhouses where kind of nursing homes evolved from, and we built conversation from that photo. What does this feel like? What does it look like? What do you think it smelled like? That sort of thing. And we always get, oh, it's cold, it's dark, I wouldn't want to live there. And then one nurse said to me, you know what? It's probably better than the alternative of living on the street. And ever since, when I show that photo, I think of that story, like, even though it evokes negativity, somebody saw some positive in that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that is just amazing to me. And
No.
that's why I do what I do.
Yeah, in each one of our training sessions, I always tell people, this is yours. Like, I'm just here to facilitate this. I'm here to provide you with information. We're going to talk about it all, but this is your session. So if something doesn't feel right, if something feels like you want us to stop and we can talk about something more, we've actually made changes to the itinerary and to the content based on feedback that we've gotten from people like mid-class,
Yeah.
like we've stopped mid-class to have
Pivot.
deep,
It's called pivot.
yeah, but we've like stopped the session to have deep conversations about how the information is hitting some people. And then we put some work into saying, okay, let's find something different. And then we'll talk about it. But we always talk about, all right, this video that we're showing you, we used to show this video, but this is why we don't. We encourage you to go watch the old one. But, we talk about the fact that the people in the sessions, the people that are supposed to be there receiving the information, are really the ones driving the information that's being presented.
Well, we are all coming together as care partners to build our community. So, y'all, this has been amazing. And I could talk to you guys about this all day long. But I want to have enough time to share with the audience some of the resources that Culture Change Network of Georgia has to help you all with doing these kinds of things in your own organizations. So I'm going to skirt along to that. Jackie and Tim, do you have any dying last word that you want to say?
Well, I hope they wouldn't be dying last words,
No,
but no. I just thank you for the opportunity to talk about what we do. And, Jackie and I love to talk about what we do. So having the opportunity is always a good thing.
Well, it's wonderful. Thank you all. We loved having you.
Well, thank you for letting us share, how we try to take care of people here. And now we're ready for you, Kim. You share your goodness now.
Okay, I'm going to share the Culture Change Network of Georgia goodness with the folks on the call. So what I want to let us all know is, as part of our grant, our CMP grant, we have webinars, and we're doing our grant in partnership, as you know, with the Gerontology Institute at Georgia State. And on January 26th, we are going to have a great webinar with Candace Kemp and Jennifer Kraft Morgan on practical strategies for engaging people living with dementia. And it's going to be great. Candace Kemp has been working on and had a really awesome 5-year grant project on this. So this will be fabulous. And all the webinars that we have had the recordings are on our educational website, which is culturechangematters.org. and there's a tab that says webinars, and you can access all of the recordings, and you can even get a certificate for listening to them by participating in a few little questions, a little quick test. So all of the ones that we did on trauma-informed care and support are there. If you missed those, that series is fabulous. And then Dr. Cameron Camp and I did one on building your communication skills to support person-centered dementia care practices. That's excellent. He helped us learn about how people with dementia can learn, and people with dementia can still read, and how to measure and test that. So that webinar is in the recordings. And then on March the 9th, Cameron and I are going to be doing another webinar where we're going to be talking about antipsychotics and dementia. So that, be on the lookout for that one. And then as part of this grant, we offer, and this is just for nursing homes because of the way it's funded through civil monetary penalties, but we offer opportunities for people to take the Certified Eden Associate training as well as Dementia Beyond Drugs. And everyone here knows about the Certified Associate training and Eden. And in Georgia, we have well over 1,300 certified Eden Associates now, which is just amazing, from all over, throughout the aging services network and the continuum. So this one is, people can't get away and do in person, unfortunately, because it's really fun to do it in person, but we're doing it online, and there are 11 online sessions, and it's March 1st through May the 30th. We haven't put out applications yet. Excuse me. So be on the lookout for that. And then, sorry, we're doing Dementia Beyond Drugs. And it's not just about drugs. It's about bringing well-being to people with dementia and how to prevent putting people on antipsychotics in the first place. It's excellent. It's based on the work of Dr. Al Power, and it's 7 weeks, and we'll be doing that in the fall. And we haven't put out the applications for that yet either, but it's excellent. And then the big news is tomorrow is the deadline for nursing homes. As part of our grant, we created an educational series called Culture Change Matters, and it lives online, but it is intended to take place in person, in your organization, in groups, with discussion, and as Tim and Jackie were talking about, where people have time to think about their own individual responses, and then talk with each other, and then talk as a group and have facilitated conversations. And we also have an onboarding version that's been put together. And as I said, it's lives online in a learning management system, but it's set up with PDFs and handouts and videos so that the facilitator and champion of the organization, they don't have to be experts. They just need to facilitate and lead the conversations. So there's 2 modules for advisory staff and how to get started in this, and then how to facilitate culture change and person-centered care from a coaching mindset. And then there are 3 modules for direct care and support associates. And the supervisory staff have to go through these as well, so that everybody in the organization is on the same page and they all know what each other knows. And let me show you quickly a little video about why. And there's a whole testimonial that David Milner put together, and I'm not going to play it now. We don't quite have time, but it's wonderful. And he came into this having gone through Eden. We created it for organizations that haven't had time or the money to create something like this. And it's really the foundation of person-centered care and culture change, and how you can get your organization all on the same page. And it's a great way to kind of get over and get beyond our COVID culture that everybody has just been forced into, and get back to where we were before COVID happened. It's love. You can find it on our YouTube page. And the applications for the organizations are due tomorrow, and the application is available on the Culture Change Matters website. And I just want to remind everybody about all of our little micro learning videos that are available on YouTube and Facebook. On YouTube, they're divided by playlists, and we have over 17 just on dementia now, y'all. So those can be used all kinds of ways in your organizations. And just make sure you're connected and signed up for our newsletter and our social media, so we can stay in touch and keep sharing this great stuff with you. So thank you to everybody for coming today. Thank you, Tim and Jackie. This has been fabulous.